Hi students, I'm having you work through the Unit 1 review, which is basically an Algebra 2 review, just to make sure we remember all of the concepts that we learned there. And so as you're working that review, I just thought I would run through a quiz that's also in that unit, so just as maybe a quick refresher for us. So I'm going to run through this pretty fast. Hopefully we know all this information, but just in case we don't, hopefully this will be a little refresher. Okay, so let's talk about factoring. So we've got 4x squared plus 2x minus 12. Well, we always look for the greatest common factor first. So we know we can factor out a 2, and that would leave us with 2x squared plus x minus 6. And now we're just going to worry about factoring this thing, but making sure we leave that outside too, out there also. Okay, so I like to factor using the big X method. If you haven't learned this, just remind me in class and we will go over that. But here's the basic of it right here. You do a times c at the top, you do your b term here, then you divide by a, and you're coming up with those factors for that. So a times c is 2 times negative 6, which is negative 12. Our b term is 1. We'll be dividing by 2. Okay, so what times what is negative 12? That adds up to be 1. Well, that would be 4 times negative 3. This 4 over 2 reduces to a 2. I'm bringing down this 2. So that factor is x plus 2. This doesn't reduce, so it's still negative 3 over 2. You bring the 2 to the front. 2x minus 3, that is that factored. Okay, the second one is the difference of cubes. And hopefully you learned a little acronym called SOAP to do that. So I would like to rewrite these. That's x cubed minus 4 cubed. 4 cubed is 64, so I know what my a and b are. So if you don't remember that, the difference of cubes formula is a same sign, which is minus. Then we have a squared opposite sign, so that would be a plus. The two of them multiplied together, and then always positive, so that would be b squared. So that's the formula for it. And our a in this case is x, the b is 4, so that should be x minus 4. And a squared, which is x, so x squared, plus a times b, so that's 4 times x, so 4x, plus b squared, b is 4, so 4 squared is 16, and that is how you factor the difference of cubes. Okay, so now we have a division problem. Remember, dividing fractions is easy as pie. Flip the second and multiply. So remember how we do these is that we factor everything, and hopefully some of this stuff will start reducing. So I'm going to flip the second one and factor all at the same time. So starting with this one, 4, we can factor out a 4 and get x plus 1. Okay, we can't factor anything on the bottom there, so we're just going to leave that x minus 1. Now remember, we flipped these two. So x squared minus 1 is now on top, and that factors is x plus 1, x minus 1, and then our x squared minus 4x minus 5 should factor into, what, x minus 5, x plus 1. Adds up to, multiplies to be negative 5, adds to be negative 4. Okay, so remember from there, we just start reducing. So let's see, this x plus 1 can reduce with this x plus 1. This x minus 1 can reduce with that x minus 1. That looks like everything we can reduce. So final answer is everything that's left, 4 times x plus 1 over x minus 5. Final answer. You could distribute that 4. That's fine for those answers also. Okay, the second one is a subtraction problem. Remember, we have to have a common denominator when we add or subtract fractions. So we need to factor this. So x squared minus 25 is x plus 5, x minus 5. Well, we have the x plus 5 here, so we need the x minus 5. So remember, the whole fraction needs to be over x plus 5 x minus 5. Well, this first one needs to be multiplied by the x minus 5. If we do it to the bottom, we have to do it to the top. So we've got 3 times x minus 5. Minus, well, this one has our denominator under it, so we don't need to change that, but it's 2x minus 20. And remember, we're subtracting that, so we're going to have to make sure we distribute that minus sign. Okay, so let's work on that top. We've got 3x minus 15 minus 2x plus 20 all over the x plus 5, x minus 5. Okay, we're going to join like terms, so we're going to join our x values. So 3x minus 2x just leaves us with x, and then negative 15 and a positive 20 leaves us with plus 5. And then we have our denominator x plus 5, x minus 5. Okay, look at that. We can still reduce some more because we have an x plus 5 on the top and one on the bottom. All right, common mistake here is to think that the answer is just x minus 5, but remember, he is on the bottom, so that is 1 over x minus 5. Final answer. Okay, here's another subtraction one. So look at this common denominator here will be x times x plus 4. Okay, and so we're going to just write x times x plus 4. Here, that's going to be our denominator. Okay, this fraction needs the x plus 4 on the bottom, so it also needs it on the top. So we're going to have x plus 4 times x minus 2 minus, okay, this one needs to be multiplied by the x to get that common denominator, so the top also has to be multiplied by the x, so that is going to be minus the 4x. Okay, so now we need to multiply out the x plus 4, x minus 2. Remember, you always have to FOIL those, so that becomes x squared plus 2x minus 8 minus 4x all over the x times x plus 4. Okay, we're going to simplify the top. We've got x squared, joining these two terms, minus 4x minus 8 all over x times x plus 4. This should be able to factor, let's see, 8 times 1 and 4 times 2. Nothing adds up to 4. So that should be our final answer. Right, okay. So now these are the fun ones here. This last one, number 6. All right, I like to look at the whole thing and see what is the entire common denominator. Well, I see my common denominator is x times x minus 1. Well, if I multiply the entire top times x minus 1 and the bottom by x times x minus 1, I'm going to get rid of some of these fractions. So on the first one, our x's will cancel out, leaving us with x minus 1 times the x plus 2. Minus, okay, this one, the x minus 1's cancel out, leaving us with the 2x. Okay, I hope you remember that. Let's see. Okay, so then here our x's cancel out on this one. So we have x minus 1 times x plus 1. The x minus 1's cancel out on the second fraction. So we have the plus x plus 1 times that x. Okay, so now let's simplify all this. We're going to multiply out this binomial. We get x squared plus x minus 2 minus the 2x all over. That's the difference of two squares there. So we have x squared minus 1 plus an x squared plus an x. Okay, that was multiplying this part out. Okay, let's keep simplifying here. We have an x squared. Our x and negative 2x or minus 2x leaves us with minus x, and then minus the 2. All over here we've got 2x squared plus x minus 1. Okay, can those factor? Let's see. Bring it on down here. So we've got x minus 2, x plus 1 on the top factored. And then if we're going to do, let's factor that bottom using our big X method. So 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. With b term is 1. We're dividing by 2. So what times what is negative 2? That adds up to be 1. So that would be 2 times negative 1. And so that reduces to a 1 here. So that factored is x plus 1. And this doesn't reduce, so we've got 2x minus 1. And these x plus 1s will reduce, leaving us with x minus 2 over 2x minus 1 as our final answer. Hopefully that'll help just a little bit as a refresher to do that last review.